Well, this afternoon, or this morning rather, we're waiting for the update on Hurricane Michael. As of the latest advisory, it is still a Category 4 storm, 140-mile-per-hour sustained winds. And with the next advisory, I'm really not anticipating a lot of big changes with the numbers coming in from the Hurricane Center. Could it be a little bit stronger? Yeah, 145-mile-per-hour winds. That's pretty strong. And to make it a Category 5 storm, just a few miles per hour would get us in that direction. As far as the forecasts, I don't think we are going to be dealing with necessarily a Category 5 storm itself, but as storms do come on shore, I mean, a few miles per hour, that's not going to make that much of a difference. We are still going to be dealing with catastrophic damage with this storm as it is moving onshore. 145-mile-per-hour sustained winds right now. Pressure down to 931. That dropped about 30 millibars from yesterday. So that's why the storm has been strengthening, and it will likely make its way onshore as a Category 4 storm with those 145-mile-per-hour sustained winds moving northward. That center of the track just to the southeast of Dothan, and as it does so, it will be weakening a bit. The question is going to be how quickly does it weaken? That's going to make all the difference for us here. I think at the very least some parts of the Wiregrass will be dealing with Category 2 or 3 winds. The best chance for that is the closer to that center line where you are located and a little bit further south. Certainly Jackson County, Washington County, and into our Georgia counties. Seminole County certainly has a decent chance of seeing winds like that. On satellite imagery, looking really good as far as that eye. There's that center of circulation, very well defined as this is spinning toward the coast. It was moving almost due north yesterday. It has now started to make that turn as we have been expecting toward the coastline. Panama City is probably going to be in the bullseye somewhere right around there, give or take a few miles. That eye is roughly about 20 miles across. I want to take a look at the visible satellite imagery. Looking very good on that. The sun is rising. You can see those high cloud tops. The outflow looking very healthy with this. So this isn't going to weaken before landfall. We can count on that with this storm. And radar, we're looking at some showers and storms already moving in. These are the outer bands, the feeder bands coming to the region. Certainly some pockets of some gusty winds already. We were outside a little bit earlier with Mandy. Not too bad as far as the sustained winds right now, but we will start to see those gusts pick up as we head closer to noontime. That's when a lot of the area will begin to see those tropical storm force winds for us across the area. And then as we do head into the later afternoon and certainly into the evening, we'll be looking at those conditions deteriorate with those hurricane force winds moving into the area. Here's the projection from our computer model. There we go, 1 o'clock, the eye of the storm just making its way onshore. Don't look at exactly where the model's placing it. Just know that it is going to be down at the coast, somewhere near Panama City, Bay County, seeing that our winds will be in the tropical storm force range at that time. Certainly some bands of heavy rain coming into the area, and as that system gets a little bit closer to the center of that system, maybe into Jackson County by 3:45, we'll be nearing hurricane force winds for part of the area. Our model plot as far as Dothan, a little bit north of where those strongest winds would be at this time. So say southern Houston County into places like Cottonwood, Ashford, maybe seeing some of those stronger winds already at this time. Certainly out in Gordon as well. Marianna seeing those strongest winds at this time, possibly even the eye over your city at that point. And then as we head into the evening, the winds will really be picking up for us. Our model's projecting that we will be within hurricane force range at that point, even stronger possible than what our model plots are projecting for us. And as we do head into the later evening hours, 8 o'clock and beyond, we will start to see the winds decrease a bit for us as this will be moving to the northeast, possibly making a beeline toward Albany, middle Georgia, Macon and Augusta in the path of the storm. As it is weakening, they'll be dealing with more of the tropical storm force winds like we will be dealing with as we do head into the later evening hours. 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds by then. That's still enough to create some damage, and anything that is damaged by the hurricane force winds that we will be dealing with this evening, those winds will be strong enough in the tropical storm force range to certainly still continue to blow things around, cause even more damage to some parts of the area. And then finally, as we head past midnight, that's when the bulk of the rain, the bulk of the winds will start to move out of the area, and gradually those winds will be decreasing as we head into the wee hours of the morning, at this time switching out a more westerly to northwesterly direction and calming down a bit. But tomorrow, even as the storm exits, as we're heading out to clean things up, we will still be dealing with some breezy conditions at times. So I want to reiterate the watches and warnings for us. The hurricane changes from last night. We do have Henry and Dale counties included in the hurricane warning. All of our Florida counties, all of our Georgia counties, and even extending into Macon. Those hurricane warnings, that's where we do have that best chance of having those hurricane force winds. We have those tropical storm warnings to the north, say Barber, Pike, into Coffee, Covington County. Even though you're not including that hurricane warning, you could have hurricane force gusts and sustained winds upwards of 73 miles per hour. That's enough. That could do some damage, and with the heavy rain coming in, that'll be enough to really topple trees as well, and you'll still have that potential for seeing some widespread power outages. And to couple everything else with the bad winds that we'll be dealing with, tornado watches are in place for basically the eastern part of the area, Washington into Jackson County, the Georgia counties included in that. The entire area, even the counties that are highlighted by that tornado watch, are included in a flash flood watch, because we do anticipate there to be some periods of some very heavy rain. A foot or more for some locations is not out of the question. And here we go. The bottom line, we've been talking about this for the past couple of days. We will in fact be dealing with a major hurricane at landfall, and that's exactly what has been happening. The storm has been strengthening, and a lot of the area will be dealing with, at a minimum, low-end hurricane force winds. The further to the southeast you are located, the better chance you have of seeing those stronger winds for us, widespread power outages, and with that, major structural damage for some of us likely, especially at locations at the coast. Not only do they have the winds to contend with, they will be dealing with a pretty decent storm surge, upwards of 12 feet or more, as those winds come on shore. Heavy rain, flash flooding likely for us. So later on tonight, when conditions begin to calm down, certainly be careful on the roadways. We will still have some issues as we do head into the evening hours. And again, the timing for the strongest winds will be later this afternoon, lasting into the evening as that center of circulation is moving through the area. Just to show you what we can expect typically with the Category 4 storm coming on shore. Now, we do not anticipate a Category 4 strength storm once it's making its way into the Wiregrass itself, but down at the coast, they will be dealing with those winds upwards of 130 to 156 miles per hour, and catastrophic damage will be widespread. If you go down to the coast the next couple weeks, it is going to look very different from how it looks right now. Coming up in a few moments, we'll have the latest numbers from the Hurricane Center. Ben?
Get you downtown now, live to EMA is about to hold a press conference with the latest from the Houston County. We want to get the government officials where. This is Chris Etheridge, who was on with us hours ago, speaking live at EMA headquarters in Dothan.
Let's do it. We'll start at 10 till. How about that?
10 till is right now. So yeah, he said they'd start at 10 till. Let's just hang with this for a moment. Again, taking your questions today, and I
have a question here, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
April Walden, she lives in Ashford. If we could throw a double box up and get Griffin and Scott to please address this question. She's asking, it keeps showing us in the front quadrant with Hurricane Michael. She wants to know, why is it that they are not under a tornado watch?
Where are they located?
That's Ashford.
Well, don't you know, those are nuances at this point as far as where those watches and warnings are placed for stuff like this. The biggest threat with this storm is going to be the widespread hurricane force winds. Yeah, we could see some tornadoes. Best chance for that is going to be on the eastern side of the storm, because that's where we have the most inflow. It becomes a little bit more turbulent because of that, so you get that spin in the atmosphere a little bit more easily. But by far the biggest threat is going to be the sustained wind for several hours. Hurricane force, that's 74 miles per hour and greater. Out of a typical afternoon thunderstorm, that might be severe warned. We have winds close to 50 miles per hour. 55 is the threshold for that. So this is going to be sustained for hours.
So be a prolonged event.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I would like to point out, we just had the 10 a.m. advisory come in, and this thing's still strengthening. The pressure's now dropped to 928 millibars, and that historically, according to the list that I'm looking at now, that if the pressure holds, that would make it the 6th strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in the United States.
Yeah, as far as the pressure, which is one of the big ways that we do measure the force of hurricanes. want to point out the winds have maintained at
Yes,
145
winds are
miles
still
per hour.
holding.
Let's bring the graphics full screen to take a look at what's going on with the latest advisory here with the numbers from the Hurricane Center. There we go, 145 mile per hour sustained winds. That's sustained winds. We will be dealing
Yes.
with winds much greater than that in pockets. It's not out of the question to have wind gusts upwards of Category 5 strength with this, just that you measure hurricanes with sustained winds. Now, as far as that forecast track, it will be maintaining strength. And one thing that has changed from the last advisory, the stronger winds more likely for us in the Wiregrass.
Yes.
Check it out. Category 2 strength. 8 o'clock tonight, that's 100 miles per hour or greater. We'll have more on this coming up in a few moments, guys.
All right, thank you, Scott Roberts. Let's go live downtown Dothan to the Houston County EMA office.
Unfortunately, as everyone is aware at this point, it has strengthened overnight. Our impact is expected to be stronger and more widespread than we had initially thought. The good thing is, in first response and emergency preparedness and emergency management, we have always taken the stance of preparing for the absolute worst and praying for the best. So we feel like, under the leadership of Dothan-Houston County EMA Director Chris Judah, our police chief, our sheriff, and our fire chief, and volunteer fire chiefs throughout the 17 fire departments in Houston County, that we're prepared to respond to this incident. A couple of things that I've been asked, again, through the Joint Information Center, we're working to speak with one voice and get everybody's message out at one time. So I've got a couple of key points that I'd like to run through and ask that our media partners help to get out. We have a group in the county that's called VOAD. It's Volunteers Volunteer Organizations Active in Disasters. It's a great organization that has really helped in staffing our areas of refuge, our comfort stations that have been open at a lot of our churches. However, they're running very short on volunteers and looking for volunteers. So I have a number. Anyone who has time and would like to volunteer, if you could text your full name, your telephone number, and what time you would be available to the following cell phone number. It's 334-245-3341. Again, that's 334-245-3341. They need your name, your number, and what times you would be available. This is to help us man and staff rather the areas of refuge that are being established throughout the city, both for those who are coming in from our friends in Florida, as well as those here in Dothan, Houston County who need shelter. Any of those who are looking for shelter coming into the area can contact 211 for guidance on that. If you have transportation, VOAD is asking that you report to Cornerstone Church. That's 2685 John D. Odom Road. That's just off of Montgomery Highway. That's basically the reception center. They'll receive everyone there, complete your paperwork, get you registered. You have to have a photo ID to get registered, and then they will send you to the appropriate shelter that has availability. I think currently we're at about 110 people that are in our comfort stations now that have been seeking refuge from the storm, either passing through our city and county or from local. Power outages is going to be widespread, and it's going to be a long duration. With the sustained winds forecast for our area, as well as significant wind gusts, up to Category 2 strength wind gusts, we're going to see significant power outages. A couple of things to remember. When you call to report those outages, please have your account number available. If you want to go ahead and write that number down, put it in your cell phone so you'll have it and have it available, that will speed the process for you. We're asking everyone to please understand and exercise patience as best as possible. All of our systems have a limited number of lines coming in. For instance, at Dothan Utilities, there's 21 lines that come in. So that 20-second call, unfortunately, is going to get a rapid busy signal until one of those lines frees up. So exercising patience and not repetitively calling. We know we're going to have widespread outages, and it's going to take a while to get them back up. So after you report your outage, if you'll exercise patience, what we typically try to do is get a message out. Power has been restored in this area. If you're still without power, contact your utility company. That way we don't receive multiple calls from the same address and tax the call takers that are in those call centers. Remember, a national standard that all of our local utilities operate by is sustained winds greater than 35 miles an hour. We do not put anyone in a bucket truck. All of those trucks will come back for the safety of the linemen and make sure that they're safe. So, for instance, this afternoon, we're expecting sustained winds greater than 35 miles an hour for several hours. During that time, we will not be working on power and not be restoring power at that point because it takes running out from the main line, clearing all the debris, restoring that, and then working all of the sublines down to the end of that transmission into the neighborhoods and things of that nature. So it's going to be an extended outage. That's why our emergency management team advises everyone, be prepared to be self-sufficient for 72 hours. We need everyone to have prepared. Now is the time to put those supplies into action and make sure that you're ready with water, non-perishables, batteries, things of that nature to make sure that you can sustain. But patience is going to be the key, and getting that reported and then allowing our crews to get out and work that. Next, the difference between 911 and 211. As you can imagine, during times like this, our 911 centers are inundated with calls, and they're inundated with real-life emergency calls. We ask that everyone reserve non-emergency requests, non-emergency needs, go to 211, or if it's regarding your power, to your utility company. 911 is reserved for life and death emergencies and crimes in progress. If we can do that, that will significantly help our dispatchers to make sure that we get the appropriate resources to the appropriate folks as quickly as we can. Again, limited number of lines that come in. There's only so many trunk lines that come into a 911 center, just like anywhere else. So we want to keep as many of those lines available as we can for emergencies. 211 is a great resource for any informational needs, any resource needs to get that out. So please use that. That group is doing a phenomenal job for our county and for the entire Wiregrass to make sure that we're getting the right information out to everyone and that everyone is taken care of. The last two items that I have are we are currently working to open Westgate Recreation Center at 12 noon today. For any of those folks throughout Dothan and Houston County who do not feel safe in their home, who need an area of refuge to get to, whether that be in a mobile home or in another structure that they don't feel safe and you need somewhere to go, we're working to open Westgate Rec Center. Please understand this is going to be a coordinated effort. We've got requests in for cots and building meal plans right now. So it will be open at 12 noon today at Westgate Rec Center on Westgate Parkway. However, if you get there at noon, you're probably going to walk into a building that does not have cots yet and does not have a meal plan set up. But EMA has put a request in through the state for 300 cots and things of that nature to staff that to staff and have the resources needed for a comfort station there to make sure that our citizens are taken care of as well as those moving through. And then lastly, the Dothan City Manager and City Commission, along with the Police Chief, Chairman Culver from the County Commission, and Sheriff Donald Valenza, would like to enforce and implement a curfew. That curfew will be starting today at noon until otherwise directed. The goal of the curfew is for everyone's safety. It's to encourage people to stay off of the roads. It's for first responder safety so that we have the roadways clear to respond to emergency vehicles when we can, where we can, to help those in need. It gives an opportunity for the Sheriff's Department to handle crimes in progress and those things rather than dealing with folks that are on the roadway that don't need to be on the roadway. Again, we have been encouraging everyone to be prepared to stay home, not be out on the roadways looking to see what the damage is. Everyone should be at home. This curfew helps us to be able to enforce that and encourage everyone to stay put, stay where you're at after noon today until lifted. That message will come back out through this Joint Information Center. The goal is to, once the storm passes and we're able to get out, our crews are able to get out and do good damage assessment, we can isolate that if we needed to. They have the liberty at that point to lift the curfew altogether, or to determine a certain section of the county or a certain section of the city is so damaged that we don't need people out after dark due to electrical hazards or whatever the case may be, and then we can kind of narrow that curfew down for citizen safety. So again, Westgate Rec Center will open as an area of refuge at noon today, as well as all of the city of Dothan and Houston County will be under a curfew beginning at noon today until lifted by the city manager, city commission, and county commission. At this point, I'll be glad to open for questions. I do have available, like I said, the sheriff, the police chief, Director Judah, for any questions that you may have. We can make those available offline or online for everybody, but I would ask that if you have questions specifically for any of the participants, that we go ahead and ask those as best we can so that everybody gets that at one time.
In your morning briefing, did they give you an updated timetable as to when the worst of the weather could be rolling in our area?
The timetable really has not changed a lot. We're looking for tropical storm force winds beginning really any time from now forward. And then the hurricane force winds, I believe they said around 5 p.m. till midnight-ish moving through the area. So significant winds. Keep in mind, we've been watching the weather just like everybody else has. A Category 4 hurricane has never entered through the panhandle of Florida into the state of Alabama. This is the first time that this has been documented. So this is what, like I said, the men and women of emergency services and utilities companies prepare for. We have the plans in place, and we feel like we're ready to exercise those and execute those and make them happen. Randy?
I know Westgate is opening, but people still need to go to Cornerstone first before going to Westgate, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. We're tracking all evacuees, whether local or coming through, so that if we get a call to 211 looking for mom or sister or dad, that everyone knows where they are. And that's being tracked through Cornerstone back to 211. But I do ask that anybody who's leaving home that's going to an area of refuge, whether it's here in the city or somewhere else, let someone know where you're going. Oftentimes, we expend resources looking for someone at a home that has safely evacuated, and they didn't let anybody know. We're going to assume that someone's in trouble and that they need assistance until we know otherwise, if a son or a daughter or someone calls looking for their parents. So just let someone know that you're gone and where you're headed so that we can verify that and make sure that you're good to go.
The question was asked specifically about mobile homes. Should they stay in them or leave?
That is an individual choice. We do know from research that we found that sustained winds for more than a minute of 50 miles an hour or greater can cause significant damage to mobile homes, particularly the older mobile homes. I would look at that very seriously. We don't advise evacuations, but I would advise you to look at that research and understand that we're going to have significant wind gusts much greater than 50 miles an hour, and the significant potential for sustained winds up to hurricane force winds for a couple of hours, which is 74 miles an hour or greater. I would take all those factors into account. Yes, sir.
Obviously, call 911 if you're injured. Is there a mechanism in place for people to report property damage?
Property damage at this point, if you have someone that's trapped in a home or have live power lines down on their home, or they can't exit, that would be a call to 911 to get emergency services en route. To report damage would come through 211. We may later establish a helpline to track storm damage here through EMA. That's not been established at this point, but that is important that we're able to track that storm damage and track all of what's going on throughout the county, so that if we do have the widespread significant impact that we believe we're going to have, that when it comes back to a month from now and FEMA's doing their surveys, we have all of this documentation. Encourage everyone to document your personal property now and after the storm if you have any damage. That will be critical for you, your insurance, and FEMA should we move into a category where we qualify for public assistance or individual assistance and they're here doing those surveys. Yes, sir.
Any idea how many people may have left, and then also any messages you want to pass on to the folks who have stayed in the area?
People who have left from our area?
From the area, to seek shelter somewhere else.
We don't know at this point. We know that we've got about 150-ish people in our areas of refuge, and that is a mixture of local folks as well as those who are traveling through the area. Yesterday and prior, we were pushing out the message to continue moving, if you could, to move through the Wiregrass area on up to the Montgomery area where shelters have been established, to leave our space available for those last-minute evacuees coming out of the Florida Panhandle. And that's worked extremely well to this point. We have space available, and we're making more space available due to the fact that not only those who may have not feel safe locally that are looking for somewhere to go, but post-storm, if you have significant damage to your home and you can't stay at home, our city and county commission felt it very important to have a safe place that those folks can go until we can make their home safe, or they can make their home safe, whether that be with tarps or removing electrical lines or whatever the case is.
How many shelters do we have in place right now?
Right now we have 5 that are open and opening Westgate. So we'll have a total of 6 that will be open by noon.
Can you name those real quick again?
I can do my very best. That is going to be First Baptist Church. I have a list. Memphis Baptist Church, Wiregrass Church, Northview Christian Church, the Harbor, and then at noon will be Westgate Rec Center. So that would be the 6 that will be open by noon today. Any other questions? Please remember, for those watching, not only with the curfew, but if you are out and trying to get back home from work or whatever the case is, law enforcement will be out. I believe we've got, throughout the county, we've got about 100 officers on the streets now throughout the county, and we'll have throughout the duration of the storm. But as roads begin to close and things of that nature, if you're in an essential function and you have to get to work or you have to get home from work because you work in an emergency service or a critical function, please heed barricades. They're there for a reason. Do not go around barricades. Do not cross standing water on roads, and assume that any power line that is down is a live line until you're told otherwise by the electric authorities. Last call for questions. Anybody? Thank you for your time. We're tentatively planning our schedule for today. After this briefing will be a 2 o'clock and an 8 o'clock this evening. If that stands, if that changes, I will let you know. At this point, we'll plan on starting again here in this room at 2 p.m. today. Great. Thank you for your time. Thank you for helping us get our message out.
Okay, so there's the latest from the Houston County EMA Center. We told you that Chris Etheridge would be the face of that. We wanted to introduce you to him in depth this morning in case you haven't spent a lot of time with him. He's the Deputy Chief of the Dothan Fire Department, and so he is the face, the point man for EMA in Houston County.
Just to recap a couple of key points, as he said, Westgate Rec opening today at noon. They have ordered about 300 cots, and then also mandatory curfew starting today at noon as well.
Yes, so get off the roads. If it's not essential for you to be on the roads, you could get in a serious situation there. Law enforcement will make sure that you do leave the roadways. Another thing, they asked for assistance for if folks looking to work refuge areas. That number, I'm just going to say it a couple of times here, 334-245-3345. 3341. So if you're willing to assist in refuge areas and can work today, they want you to text that number. Don't call it. Shoot them a text message. That's, again, 334-245-3341. And hang with us. We'll get that on a graphic and show it to you later on in the broadcast.